Well, this has been a long week, a lot of videos, but a lot of material as well. And I'm sure you're going to be going over these multiple times, or at least I hope you will. I've covered three assumptions outside that were kind of like global assumptions that addressed blue. I gave you a description of what blue is, along with primary assumptions that fell outside the Gauss-Markov assumptions, and then 9 Gauss-Markov assumptions. All of them together really paint a very similar picture. And this week, what we're going to do in class is we're going to analyze the Anscombe data set along with the other data sets that I've distributed in previous week. And for those of you who are using R, you can follow this code. Just pretty straightforward. And those who don't, who aren't using R, which is fine, you can use the Anscombe data set that I submitted. I think I sent it. Yeah, I sent it out in week 2. So first thing is I want everyone to identify what assumption is violated in each one of the data sets. And then the second is I want you to analyze all of the other data sets from week 2 and write down which assumption is violated. And each data set has a different assumption violated. And also, if you are running into problems with this, just go back to the code that I showed you in each one of the assumption videos, and you'll be able to see how I generated the code and then how I demonstrated that it was violated. So I generated the data specifically to violate the assumption, and then you can see what it looks like in the diagnostic procedure. And then finally, I want you to be able to describe why an assumption was violated. You know, sometimes it's just difficult to figure out what the true cause of the violation is. But when it comes to data, we should be able to look at the values in the data set and look at the diagnostic procedures and identify whether there's an outlier that creates a very strange residual term, or if there's some design problem, if I knew the design. But in this case, I'm not telling you the designs because there is no design. The design is I created data. But you need to be able to go back and, like a detective, be able to detect what caused or what may be the cause for the assumption violation. And you're going to do that by first detecting that there is a violation, arriving at some judgment about what that violation is and what it means. But you should also understand what the violated assumption results in. Does it result in a biased parameter estimate, therefore not getting a blue estimate, or does it result in standard error estimates that are either too big or too small, which then affects hypothesis testing? So these assumptions and the violations will affect parameter estimates, or they'll affect hypothesis testing. And what I want everybody to do is feel comfortable with detecting these problems. So you're going to use any tool that you see is suitable for solving the problem, or at least identifying what the problem is. Use a tool to identify the problem, and then based upon your diagnostics, be able to have a pretty good understanding of what that problem changes or affects, whether it's parameter estimate or hypothesis testing. And then we'll talk about later on, we'll talk about how to solve a lot of these problems. So that's what we're going to be doing this week, and we're going to be spending a lot of time going over each one of these data sets because I generated the data sets intentionally to violate these assumptions. You'll be able to see exactly how the violations manifested. So stay tuned for that. That's in class this week.